Hey there everyone, I'm Samuel Johnson and welcome to the Alien Force Retrospectives. And for those tuning into these videos right after watching the Ben 10 Retrospectives, welcome back. And for those of you who are just starting with these videos and have not witnessed my Ben 10 Retrospectives videos, go ahead, watch them. I'll be patient. Video will still be here when you're done. And so anyway, with that half-assed intro out of the way, let's discuss episode 1 of Ben 10 Alien Force. Ben 10 Returns, Part 1. Now, before I begin talking about this episode, I want to kind of go into when it premiered and kind of discuss a few things that I probably should have discussed in the prologue, but completely slipped my mind. For starters, my feelings when I heard about the series, I originally remember this series was advertised as something that was going to something new that was going to be premiering with the finale of Ben 10 versus Negative 10. As Ben 10 versus Negative 10 was being advertised, they kept saying that after it, they were going to show a hint of something of this show, which at first I didn't even know was a show. Maybe it was. I don't remember. But bottom line, I was curious. It said Ben 10 Alien Force. I want to know about it, and so after watching Ben 10 versus Negative 10, or at least what I could watch, because I think I was called away for supper during when it was on. I think I recorded it, so I didn't miss much. But anyway, I was able to watch. I saw the first 2 minutes of Ben 10 Alien Force, and I saw what the shtick was. It was Ben and Gwen years later, after this first series is over. They're now teenagers. The Omnitrix is different. Ben's got a new assortment of aliens. I'm thinking to myself, oh man, this is cool. This is so cool. It's awesome. And the advertisement, I don't remember if it was said in the advertisements, but the series took place 5 years later, and I'm thinking to myself, oh man, in all those years, Ben could have mastered all this awesome stuff with the Omnitrix, new aliens, the new roster. This is going to be awesome. And even just the first few minutes, I was really excited about. I really wanted to know what was going on. I really did. And as such, when Ben 10 Alien Force was going to finally premiere, and they did sorry, that's my phone here. Probably silence that. Sorry about that. Anyway, so when Ben 10 Alien Force was finally premiered, I watched the whole week of stuff that they did for it. I sat down, watched the premiere, and as a kid, I do remember liking it, but now that I'm older, probably isn't as good as I remember it. But honestly, I'm just talking about the first half of it, because like in Ben 10, this series, all the hour-long specials that they premiered for this show are turned into two-parters on the DVDs, and as such, the beginning of Ben 10 Alien Force was an hour-long episode. So for the DVDs, it was split into two, and much like with Ben 10, I'll be looking at all the two-parters half by half. So as such, there are more facts I do want to talk about after this, but I think I honestly will save that until after I talk about the plot summary, because part of what makes Alien Force different from Ben 10 kind of lies in the plot of this episode. So anyway, as I mentioned prior, Ben 10 Alien Force takes place 5 years after the events of Ben 10. Ben and Gwen are now teenagers, both 15 years old because they're both 10 in the original series. Ben is now on Bellwood's soccer team, and for some reason their uniforms are all the shirts that have the same design as Ben's shirt as a kid. Gwen is more successful. Gwen is I suppose is an A student. The first thing you see of her, she's doing, I think, judo or karate. I don't know fighting shit. Anyway, Ben. Before I go on, I want to talk about the design for Ben in this show. I like how it works in this show. As someone who watched all of Ben 10 and then going right to this, I like this design. It really does look like Ben older. Like the very first time you see him, it actually contains many of the elements that that 10-year-old Ben had. He has the same hairstyle, same face, same kind of face structure, same build. Just with that shirt and everything, you can tell just from the very first scene you see him in, it's obviously Ben. And it really actually does feel like an actual progression. Gwen, on the other hand, not so much. She does not resemble her original self. Like, she has her hair is now longer and now it goes down her back. She now wears lipstick, so her lips are more pronounced. She doesn't even wear a very similar outfit. Though to be fair, Ben doesn't wear one either. But his opening shot at least made it look still you could tell it was him. But anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. So the episode starts. It's a soccer game. Ben is a goalie. The opposing team that actually has teenage versions of Cash and JT tries to shoot a goal in the net, but Ben manages to get it, and he's cheered as their best player and given an MVP medal. As such, after talking with a girl who I'll get into in a later episode, he goes off to see his grandpa Max because he wants to show him his big achievement of being an MVP for a soccer team. But so he goes to this motorhome park. I really am bad with names. To a lot for motorhomes. He goes there. He finds the rust bucket, but Max isn't there. He starts looking around, but as he's searching, he's suddenly attacked by some weird alien. Ben is able to fend it off, but he doesn't have the Omnitrix, which is something that which originally confused me. As it was told in supplemental material that apparently Ben had removed the Omnitrix shortly after the event of the first series was over. They don't explain how. I really don't know how, but Ben manages to subdue the alien and send him going out of the rust bucket. But Ben wants to know what this alien was doing here. What was he doing? So Ben hits a specific order of switches on the rust bucket dashboard and gets and finds this holographic message from Max, who explains that apparently he's in a bit of trouble and that there's some renewed alien activity on Earth. But just before the message ends, Max in the holographic message tells Ben, "Oh, don't worry about the Omnitrix. I have it, and it's completely safe." And Ben, of course, is just shocked, and so he runs home and goes to his room, which it still has the same design from the Goodbye and Good Riddance episode. He searches through his closet until he finds his box of souvenirs from the summer vacation, and inside is the Omnitrix, exactly how it looks, and apparently Ben has kept it there for 5 years. Once again, not explaining how it got removed, why it got removed. He just doesn't have it. And if you're wondering why I'm emphasizing this, it's actually for a problem that I will point out. Once this part's over. But anyway, so Ben goes to see Gwen at the end of at the end of a karate tournament. She is declared winner, and so as such, she goes off the change, which apparently takes 6 hours because when he goes to see her, it's daytime, but then after she's done changing, it's nighttime. And so he shows her the message, she gives him some actually rather nice advice because they actually show that Ben and Gwen now have a closer relationship, which I think I like. I think it's nice. 5 years have gone by, spending an entire summer vacation fighting bad guys. At that point, after that, you kind of want to. I think at that point their relationship probably could have gotten better. But before they can continue talking about it, some guy in a trench coat comes in demanding the Omnitrix, saying it's not Ben's. They try and get out of the building, but it's locked, which is something that you kind of expect if you're staying in a gym for 6 hours, I suppose. I don't know. They don't give a time, but it must have been a long time if it was in daytime when Gwen went to change to the nighttime when she finally came out. But just before they can escape, the guy apparently tears off his face, and it turns out he's some kind of fish alien, wearing a white suit, having a glass jar on his head, and he's the man. And he's just demanding the Omnitrix. He wants to know what's going on. So Ben can't do anything because he doesn't have it. He doesn't have his powers at the moment. So Gwen actually still does have her powers, as apparently she has still been studying up on her magic training since the last time we saw her. As now she's able to form pink constructs, not like platforms, shooting rays, shields. It's actually really it's really nice, and it really is kind of cool seeing all her progress from the first series come in on full here. And as such, she's able to capture this fish guy, who you think his name is Galil. I think that's it. Don't quote me if I'm don't quote me on that though. I might be wrong. And they're asking why is he's attacking them, and it turns out that this guy is a plumber, which is kind of strange considering that the first series said that the plumbers disbanded on Earth after the defeat of Vilgax, but apparently the plumbers, as the guy states, are an intergalactic police force, which is kind of weird, but because we didn't see really any intergalactic stuff in the first series, but I don't know. Maybe this is something that they don't mention. I don't know. And this is not going to be the last time I talk about this sort of thing, as Alien Force does like to dabble in a bit of retconning a bit here and there. But anyway, I'm going nuts. So it turns out that this guy and Max were working together on a case, and that apparently the reason that this guy's going after Ben is because he was at the rust bucket when that alien attacked, and he saw Ben leave, and he thought that Ben stole the Omnitrix from the rust bucket, not knowing that Ben was Ben, as apparently Ben's reputation from the original series is legendary now. As such, he proposes that they work together to find Max, and they believe him without any proof. And so Ben finally puts it back on the Omnitrix, and then cuts to later that night. It turns out they're in a junkyard where there's a deal being brokered that apparently this guy to where Galil and Max were originally going to stake out, but apparently Max knew about this deal when he went missing, so they're just kind of going on the lead, and as such, we see that there are two factions. It turns out that this is a trade-off between a group of businessmen and these guys in cloaks that Galil says are the Forever Knights, who, I may as well go off on another tangent again. The Forever Knights have gotten a major redesign since the last time we saw them. Originally, they had kind of knight regalia and so forth, and with kind of facial masks over them. Now they actually look like actual knights. In some ways, it makes sense considering that they're called the Forever Knights, but at the same time, I preferred the original design. It made them look more mysterious. When they just had a solid face mask on, it really was creepy. But anyway, just as the two trucks with both groups meet up, a third car comes in, a green car with a black stripe over it, and out comes Kevin 11, who for some reason is now human. How? Not explained in this episode, or this series for that matter. But once again, another issue. So Ben and Gwen immediately recognize him, as it turns out he's brokering the deal, as apparently in the 5 years since the kids have seen him, he's gained more explicit knowledge of more of things alien, as he's able to appropriately describe exactly what he's selling the Forever Knights, which are these things called laser lances that can shoot highly charged lasers that can destroy anything that they shoot at. It's what he's just one, and so Galil blows their cover immediately because these things are higher technology than Earth is supposed to have. So he comes out, flashes a plumber badge, which for some reason this surprised me even as a kid. It's the symbol of the Omnitrix, and I'm not kidding. It's the symbol of the Omnitrix. Why? Don't know. It's not explained in this show. You gotta read online. It's not explained in commercials. It's weird, and I don't get it. Especially since we saw plumber uniforms in the original series. They had a symbol. It was like some kind of line through a white circle or whatever. I don't know. I don't know. But when he flashes the badge, the guys in the business suits who are giving the Forever Knights the lances tear off their faces, like with what Galil did. And it turns out they're the exact same aliens that attacked Ben in the rust bucket, and so they start shooting and so they start attacking them. So Galil grabs his laser and creates a fire round, but unfortunately the Forever Knights are behind them, now getting in their regalia and using the laser lances to attack the group. And so it looks like they're doomed. So Ben decides, might as well go hero, gets the Omnitrix ready, slaps down the faceplate, and absolutely nothing happens. As the Omnitrix faceplate actually turns blue. Kind of strange. But Ben tries going alien, but nothing's working, so he just doesn't understand what's going. Ben tries going alien, but nothing. But the Omnitrix isn't working, so Galil and Gwen start using their own natural skills and abilities to try and fend off these aliens and the Forever Knights. Ben manages to get away, being chased by one of these aliens. Gwen and they're able to take out the Forever Knights and incapacitate some of the aliens, but Gwen and Galil get captured by the aliens. Ben is able to knock out the one he was going after, chasing him. He keeps messing with the Omnitrix, and then finally it gets glows green, and it recalibrates and becomes a brand new design, more slim, more precise. And of course Ben's wondering what's going on. He starts messing with it, and suddenly we get a holographic display rather than the original silhouettes. We get a holographic display. So Ben decides, screw it, not questioning it, goes alien, becomes a brand new guy. He manages to fight off what's left of the Forever Knights and get rid of the aliens, causing pretty much both sides to retreat, with the Forever Knights getting rid of all the lances and these aliens taking the cash. In the meantime, Kevin jumps in and, well, he wants revenge on Ben for all the times he screwed him over, including today. And he displays a new power. As he, instead of absorbing energy, he absorbs the material of a rail line that was running through the junkyard, and his body becomes metal. As such, he and Ben get into a fight. It's honestly not as creative, sad to say, but otherwise, Ben is able to beat Kevin, knocking him unconscious. And Pedelli puts him in these pair of energy cuffs. They want him to work with them, and at first it looks like they want him to help them figure out what's going on because he's in a lot of trouble. At first it looks like he doesn't want to, but then Gwen asks for help, and it actually is a nice, cute moment where he looks angry at her for a second before he kind of looks surprised. And so he decides to help them out because the Forever Knights took their weaponry without paying him, so he leads them to their base of operations, which is a giant castle. They manage to get inside, but when they get inside, they're suddenly attacked by what looks like a giant dragon, and that is where the episode ends. Admittedly, it's not as epic as the first parts of two-parters in the original show, but again, it was a 1 hour special, so I guess you can say they can get away with something like that. So, before I start, there are some parts of the story that I think I want to address. First off, the story has a more serious tone to it. I'm not saying that Ben 10... here's what I think. Here's a comparison between the beginning of this show and the beginning of Ben 10. In the beginning of Ben 10, it was honestly a very silly beginning. Ben is complaining about... We see Ben's heroic nature. We see more jabs between him. We see jabs between him and Gwen. We see him getting the Omnitrix, just messing around with it. And then having some really nice fight scenes after he's being chewed out, and just him goofing around. It actually helps establish very quickly what this show's going for. Just a 10-year-old kid with superpowers who wants to help people, but at the same time, he's a 10-year-old kid. He's going to do whatever. He has superpowers. He's going to go nuts with this. In the meantime, this show is obviously going for a different tone to it. In this case, the show is definitely more serious, as in the beginning of it opens up with it has more a dark tone. It opens with more mystery, more intrigue. There's more talking, a lot less jokes, bit of a darker atmosphere, and really just more mystery and intrigue. And I think one of the scenes that I think helps exemplify the change in tone is a scene where the group is going to the Forever Knight Castle. At this point, they don't know where they're trying. At this point, they're trying to figure out they're talking about where Max is, and Gwen starts making a joke about Max and his dietary habits, because he always eats weird food, and she makes a comment about, it's a wonder that all that weird food didn't kill him, which Ben snaps at her, saying, he's not dead, stop making jokes about him. Which causes Kevin to pull over the car and give Ben the scolding finger. And it actually leads to a very sad scene to a very serious and somber scene where Ben actually starts talking about how worried he is for Max, which is not a scene that would have happened in the original show. There would have been something like that, but I think in the original series, if Gwen did make a joke about about Max like that, I think there'd be Ben. I think Ben would just have a little uncomfortable laugh, and then there'd be kind of a couple seconds of silence, and them realizing, yeah, they do miss him, and then go right back to the silly in action. Here, they actually do spend a little time talking about it, and even even that snap kind of shows a change in Ben. That's actually one of the changes that one of the things that Alien Force has. Ben is more mature in this show. Ben, like they still have still contain they still he still contains enough elements that you recognize him as Ben, but in the but otherwise he's not really. It's not. He is actually more mature. He's not making as much jokes. He does still have a few comments here and there that still makes that helps you recognize him. In fact, when he goes alien and fights off the Forever Knights and the aliens, he is just he's just having a smile on his face. He's clearly enjoying what he's doing. He's just he's even cocky and just having some nice fun. But he's clearly not the same Ben we knew from there, which can be both a good thing and a bad thing depending on your perspective. Personally, I kind of like it. It's something that the show has. Ben is more mature. It shows that after all this time, Ben is actually leveled out. He's had it's especially shows when he's actually having a conversation with Gwen and actually confiding in her about his feelings about putting the Omnitrix back on. He doesn't know how to talk. It's because he doesn't know whether he wants it or not. And the fact that he's even confiding in Gwen when in the first series they had a rocky start really is showing that he's gotten better, and I like that. There's still some and there again. There's still enough there that you recognize him. Like he still makes a few jokes. He has the same arrogant attitude in battle. I do like that. There are some things there's still enough there that you recognize him as Ben, but there's still enough chains to show that he's not the same one we know that was shown in the original series. Even Gwen's kind of leveled out. She was smart, but in the original series she was kind of a know-it-all and more condescending of Ben. Here she's kinder, listens more, actually offers some very profound and good advice. It actually does. And again, there's still some things there that lets you recognize it's Gwen. The fact that she kicked someone's butt very easily. The fact that she kind of also still has her arrogant attitude, and there's even a moment when after the battle when Ben tells her that she still has some goop in her hair from the aliens, and then when she finally finds the goop, she's like, ugh. It's a small moment, but it works. And while I'm talking about main characters, let's talk about Kevin. Actually, you know what? Forget Kevin. I'll talk about him in the next one because I don't want to go nuts with all this. I want to talk about this episode as a whole, but there's still enough here that I want to talk about what's different and what the different tone. And honestly, this is again goes back to one of the things I want to talk about. I should have talked about in the prologue. The original series was worked on by Man of Action solely, and it was made kind of in vein of the fun superhero stuff of comic books that you really like. This show kind of goes for the darker part. And while it still kind of has Man of Action working on it, original in this case, it's also worked on by Cartoon Network and by Dwayne McDuffie. As many people who were fans of Dwayne McDuffie know, Alien Force / Ultimate Alien were the last shows he worked on before his unfortunate death. In this case, and as such, you can kind of tell that it has Dwayne McDuffie in it. Like if you watch shows like Justice League and then watch this, you can kind of see some story elements that work its way in. Some nice moments here and there, but still mostly serious plot. And as such, it follows the same way here in the beginning. It feels like it's setting up some things that are going on, especially with the beginning. Like the very first scene of this episode is that you see one of the aliens that attack one of those aliens that was selling the laser lances. He's going into this strange chamber, and suddenly this image appears of this big white alien with 4 eyes on its chest, wings, and this alien says that apparently that someone's been leaking about their activity to the authorities, and that someone was Max. That you don't know who these guys are. It's a nice mystery, and you want to know more about them, and it's more explained in part 2. It actually does feel strange and surreal, and that's pretty much how it is, and that's how it pretty and that's in it. I mean, what's better is that when they do discover who this is, they don't give all the answers, though. even if when they don't, there's still some things that don't make sense when you actually stop and think about them. Especially, again, I'm gonna go into more detail when I watch the when I talk about the everything as a whole. But otherwise, you can kind of tell that it's not the same show or the same or not even the same people. Man of Action, from what I've heard, did have some play in this, but mostly it was half them, half Dwayne McDuffie slash Cartoon Network, and as such, there are definitely things in there that you don't expect the original show to have. So yeah. And so anyway, before I so as such, I want to talk about some things that I enjoy, that I actually do like. In that case, like for example, one of my favorite one something that this show actually introduced was the new Omnitrix design. We saw briefly in Ben 10,000 in the Ben 10,000 episode that the Omnitrix does change design, can apparently change design, but now that we actually see it in full, it actually really is nice. And honestly, the Alien Force Omnitrix is my favorite design for the Omnitrix, with the Omniverse design coming in at a close second. And that's honestly because I love it. I love its new compact nature. I love the color choices. I love the green and blacks. I love that it's like a wristwatch, and as such, because it's a wristwatch, it's no longer it can blend in more essentially. In the original series, and actually something that kind of stood out with the original Omnitrix was how bulky it was. It stood out. You see Ben walking in with the Omnitrix event, you kind of want to look at you think, kid, what's that thing on your wrist? It sticks out. It makes you wonder what's going on. With the Alien Force style Omnitrix, it actually blends in, and as such, it really does. It actually blends in with everything. And yeah, and again, and if you actually do look at it, you can still wonder, hey kid, what's up with your watch? But because it's like a wristwatch, you wouldn't take another look at it. You just see it, you just glance at it, and you just probably glance at it a little bit, and then just shrug it off. And even on top of that, what part of Ben's new design is that he's now wearing a green jacket with a white line down the middle with a 10, white line down the side with a 10 on it, black shirt, burst, and he has green with blue jeans instead of green jeans, and I think the sneakers are the same, but don't quote me on that. I don't know. Even then, it's more compacting and be more hidden, and again, I might as well talk about the first alien we see in this, Swamp Fire. He's pretty much a mix, but he's pretty much a mix between Heat Blast and Wildvine, though with limited powers of each, while having his own unique abilities. He can regenerate. He's nigh invincible, as he's shot several times by the Forever Knights and by the lances, and all shots go through. And they even managed to cut off his arm, and he just manages to reattach it. He can go through the ground. He has super strength, and he can shoot fire out of his hands. So I like that. But honestly, beyond that, he's a nice alien. That's pretty much it. I think he's a nice alien, nice addition. Kind of all I can think of. Again, I kind of do want to talk about Kevin briefly, because I kind of don't want to go over the half-hour mark. That's what I did that with the movies, and I understand, and it's a more understanding there because they're movies. There's more to talk about, but I guess it's because I'm going into more detail with the beginning here. I think it's most honestly. I like again. I can't really go into much for Kevin's character and how his shtick is handled for this series, because we didn't really see much of him in the episode. So yeah, I think I will save that for the next part. But otherwise, as the first half of this hour-long premiere, I think it would be better. I think it makes sense why it was an hour long. I think at least for Ben 10 versus Negative 10, one half was just as good. One, you could watch either half and still get proper necessary action. But because this entire episode was just mostly build up, it didn't really make a lot of sense. I think that's actually one of the flaws with this. I think it's because if you actually imagine this, I think in the build up for the episode, for when Alien Force came in, you can understand some of it. You realize, oh, it's a new show. It takes place years later. Yada yada yada. But even then, if you imagine you're a fan of, you just got into Ben 10. You just finished watching the old show, and you would think, oh, there's a sequel. Oh man, I want to watch that. You would immediately be lost. I'm not gonna lie. You would suddenly think, like, you could hear Ben is now older. But then the very first scene he has when he's fighting the alien, he slaps it on his wrist like he has the Omnitrix, which is kind of confusing because if he hasn't worn it for years, why would that be, like a reflex or something? I don't know. But and you're probably thinking, why doesn't he have the Omnitrix? Wait, why is that guy? Wait, How Max? Wait a minute, wait, why is it? Wait, how did he get the Omnitrix? Why is it suddenly in his closet? What's going on? When did he remove it? When did he remove it? Why did he remove it? And they don't even say how either. That's like they imply towards it, but they never do actually go into any details about it. And there even some, and even you're thinking, and it's even kind of extending to Kevin. You see Kevin, you're thinking, that's Kevin? How did he become human? How did he get out of the null void? What's going on? That's honestly how it is, and I honestly feel that if you jump right from Ben 10 into Ben 10 Alien Force without any prep time between either, you are going to be lost. I mean, again, it wasn't a problem if you actually watched it when it first aired, but otherwise, yeah, don't go in. I'd recommend not going into this blind. So, yeah, on the whole, as the first half of the beginning, just kind of Again, I think I'll go. There's some things I haven't talked about. Like I briefly alluded to the fight scenes, but I think I've spent enough time doing this. It's a half hour, and again, I don't want this to go over a half hour because this isn't the movies. This is just an episode. There's a lot to talk about as there are a lot of changes, but otherwise, the first part of this episode was just eh, just eh. I'll go over my full thoughts when I look at the next episode next week, but yeah, just eh. So yeah. So thank you all for watching. I'm Samuel Johnson, and tune in next week where we look at the second part of the beginning of the first episode of Ben 10 Alien Force. So yeah, see you then.